Good evening. Welcome to the Allegany County Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum for the Mayor, City of Cumberland candidates for the 2018 gubernatorial primary election on June 26, 2018. I am Stu Zapsky, Executive Director of the Chamber. There are 7 candidates running for Cumberland Mayor, 2 of which will advance to the general election in November for 1 seat as mayor. With us today are Lawrence Becker, Robin Hood Constitution, George Merling, Raymond Morris, and David Smith. For the benefit of those viewing or listening to this forum, all candidates will be given the same question and have the same amount of time to answer each question. You will be given a notification as time expires. Additionally, we will alternate which candidate answers first. The questions were formulated by the Chamber's Legislative Committee with input from the general Chamber membership. Let's begin. Question number 1 goes first to Lawrence. Tell us about yourself, why you are running for mayor, and your qualifications.
I just retired from the city in South Carolina. I worked there for 24 years. I worked as a maintenance and sanitation supervisor. So I dealt with budgets for over 20 years down there. Also worked in the water department. Infrastructure, I know a good bit about it. So I feel my qualifications working for the city could do a lot for Cumberland. I grew up in Cumberland. I was a police officer in Cumberland also, so I understand about crime, drugs, and I think I would be an asset to be the mayor of Cumberland. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
I'm again Robin Hood Constitution, and the newspaper was, mentioned this is not my original name. Well, it is the original name that I picked out. My ancestors and paternal grandparents were Livingood, Shryoks, Stevensons, and Wilsons. I have what's left of the Wilson family farms dates back to the early 1700s. The Wilsons come over here in 1520. I'm a veteran. My brother's a veteran. My dad's a veteran. I got the land of the living here from Green Ridge State Forest. You could actually say, since I'm running for Cumberland, and I got 12.5 acres in Shades Lane, I'm the what they call Robin Hood of Shades Lane Forest. But at any rate, the Wilsons and the Shryoks especially have been involved in practically every skirmish in this country before it began. They also, to their discredit, killed a lot of Indians at Buffalo. But I'm also a graduate here at Frostburg State University in 1994. And my mother graduated here in '54. We both have teacher education degrees. And I might say I've been one of these idiots that changed majors so many times. I have 188 college credits, but only 1 degree. But I learned more in my elective classes, especially economics/sociology classes, psych courses here at Frostburg. Totally changed my life. And I really feel with my entrepreneurial skills, what I've done, which I've been self-employed since May 4th, 1980, 38 years, and some of the people, now aren't even, been alive 38 years. I've been self-employed 38 years. I hire and fire. There's nobody I have to answer to. I'm not beholden to anybody. And the only reason I got into the race at the end was Mayor Grimm got in. If nobody would have been running but 1 or 2 candidates, like say Mr. Merling got in right away, if nobody would have run, I would have never bothered to get in. But my mother always wanted me to go into politics because she couldn't. And my friend John Marvin, he always wanted to run for mayor, but he never did because it didn't pay enough. And he was afraid he'd lose.
Thank you.
So that's why I'm running.
George.
My name's George Merling, and I'm running for mayor. And what I want to do is give back to the city. I'm 75 years old, and I've been in many, many businesses. I'm an entrepreneur, and business is my business. Right now, there's no doubt that Cumberland is a great place to live, and I think I can turn this city around. And we need someone who is a businessman orientated, who will stop the bleeding, because Cumberland right now is on total life support. If we don't take and turn the city around, we've got serious, serious problems. And my background is extensive in business. I might read just a few of them to you. Of course, everyone knows right now I'm the current owner of Allegany Medical Marijuana Dispensary located in Cumberland, Maryland. We employ about 20 people. Average salary is $35,000 up to $150,000. Anytime a medical marijuana place opens, the opioid use drops 30 to 40% in the community. I've also been the president and owner of wholesale distributorship of the NFL, all 50 states. I had a hair transplantation company in Fort Lauderdale. We did $2.5 million. I had another one I sold. We did over $3 million. I was the vice president of the Beeline Monorail system in Boca Raton. It was an investment of $1.6 billion to build a mag levitation train. I've had many other businesses, and I consider myself almost an expert in business. And I think I could turn this city around.
Thank you, George. Ray?
Good evening. I'm Ray Morris. I retired last year from CSX as the terminal superintendent here in Cumberland. I'm a fourth-generation railroader. I graduated from Center College in 1979 with a degree in economics and management. I started my railroad career shortly thereafter as a trackman, then locomotive engineer, and then became a manager. I was a manager for 35 years. I first came to Cumberland in 1983 and lived here until 1990. And then I went on what I call the CSX World Tour. I went to Baltimore, Chicago, Louisville, Kentucky, Russell, Kentucky, Huntington, West Virginia, and my wife and I came back to Cumberland in 2004. My wife and I now live on Camden Avenue with our corgi, Winston. Since my return, I've been involved in the Cumberland community as a member of many civic organizations. I'm a member of the Rotary, the Greater Cumberland Committee, the Western Maryland Health System Community Advisory Board, and the Community Trust Foundation. It has always been my desire to be a public servant. With what I was doing as a career, I never had the time to do it, and now that I do, I would like to be the mayor of Cumberland. I believe that my experience as a leader, a project manager, a team builder, and managing budgets gives me the skills to be the next mayor of Cumberland, and I would like the opportunity to serve our community. I believe it's time for a change. We cannot continue to do the things that we've been doing for the last 8 years. We need a new vision, we need a new game plan, and most importantly, we need to execute. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. David?
My name is David Smith, and I'm running for mayor. I'm 31. I'm a lifelong resident here of Cumberland. I bought a house on Bedford Street. I married my wife. I'm raising my 7 children there. And so just to keep it really simple, I'm here to put people over politics. We need somebody that's gonna represent us, that's gonna have what we need, and he's gonna have the residents' best interests at heart. We need to get past our own agendas and our own thing, and we need to get to the point where we're generating plans and then we're executing them. That we just don't have plans that's straggling out for years, but that we're going to execute it and we're going to move on, and the people are going to see the progress. And so for the past several years, I've been serving this city in different facets through ministry. In the last 3 years, we've opened up Hope Homes for drug addicts. We've been having community feedings. I've been doing a lot of things to impact this city without being an elected official. And so now I'm tired of standing on the sidelines. I'm not going to sit on my hands any longer. I'm going to take this step, and I'm going to stand up to make a change in Cumberland, and I won't stop without giving it the best fight that I can give it.
Thank you, David. Question number 2 goes first to Robin. Aging infrastructure in the city, including roads and water systems, is a challenge citywide. What is the best way to prioritize and fund these projects?
Well, the water rates that I've noticed since I've become an investor in the early 90s, and the sewer and trash have went through the roof. The taxes, again, we just raised taxes because we're tearing down brick houses, and instead of, putting them out there with developers or anybody that wants to buy them. But I would say would be the streets are a problem, and it does take money to pave the streets. So we've got to eventually find some way to raise revenue. I don't care If it's through a whole lot more corporate stuff, a whole lot more marijuana stuff we come in, and we can bring in anything you want to bring in. If we got more money, we can do more with the streets. And we might need to cut to make our money go a little further, or go through attrition, etc. So I guess I'm in favor of what will work, being a pragmatist, because I don't have all the solutions. No matter what, as a mayor, I would like to see done, you have to have 2 council members agree with that, because it's a 3/5 vote. And of course, the city administrator has a lot to do with everybody. So therefore, I'll do what works. I'll try to be a pragmatist, and that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. George?
Aging properties, that's a serious problem for the city, but that's something we have to contend with. But the real problem in the city is the decreasing of the population. When the population was at a high of 40,000, now down below 20,000, and the poverty rate now is around 23%. There's no doubt that we either somehow or another have to increase this population. We have to bring people into this city to increase the tax base. Otherwise, we can't pay for the things we want to do. Right now, the median income of the city for a family is $74,000. Median home price is $76,000. The state value is $270,000. Most of our housing is below national averages dramatically. This is what causes our tax base at $1.09 or whatever it is, that why it's so high, because we don't have enough people with the houses paying taxes. So we've got to increase that some way or another to get our levels up, and that means we got to bring new people in. But this is an opportunity. People in Baltimore, D.C., Pittsburgh, if they realize that our housing is cheaper, it's an opportunity to start marketing and advertising these properties as a buy. This could be a great retirement community if we work at it and develop it to bring people into this area. We need to strengthen this. I can't say enough. We need more people. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Ray?
Our streets, bridges, water, and sewer system and neighborhoods require capital investments too big to place on the back of just the city taxpayers. Our best approach going forward is, first of all, to develop a plan and have it a long-term plan. The water system in our city needs between $250 and $300 million worth of work. Obviously, we cannot pay for that just as a city, and we need to reach out. We need to reach out to the Allegany County. We need to reach out to our delegation. We need to understand that as Cumberland goes, so goes Allegany County. One of my first calls, if I'm elected mayor, would be to the county officials to create a stronger working relationship on key services for improvement. It's not possible to get all of this done overnight, but we need City Hall to lead with a clear vision of what our city can be 5 years from now and 10 years from now. We cannot afford to try to manage our fiscal affairs on an annual basis as we have been doing in the past. We must have a forward vision, and we must execute to get our infrastructure back where it needs to be. Increasing the tax base is vitally important, but you do that by increasing the property values. By increasing property values, you do that by bringing jobs to our area and getting our workforce trained to do those jobs. That's how you raise the tax base, not by adding taxation onto the city residents.
Thank you, Ray. David?
Can you repeat that question?
Aging infrastructure in the city, including roads and water systems, is a challenge citywide. What is the best way to prioritize and fund these projects?
We have to aggressively seek funds outside of just our tax base, because right now it's low, and so we need to be aggressive in marketing. We need to rebrand Cumberland to be attractive to other people. We need to look at different things that will attract maybe your tech, call centers, something that we can start utilizing what we can do, because we don't have a lot of open space for large manufacturing development. And so we don't want to be counterproductive by bringing in a huge manufacturing plant to go against our tourism, because who wants to be touring the streets of Cumberland, but then you're smelling the plan from the outside. And then we need to have a realistic approach when it comes to budgeting out to be fiscally responsible for our infrastructure. And so other areas around here have done it where they will identify what areas of town are in the most need. That would be the priority, would be infrastructure underneath, paving the road, replacing sidewalks. And we would budget accordingly to what we have. We would be aggressive in finding monies to bring in, and then we would start there. People would see jobs being done and complete rather than a ongoing process that there's never completion. We're still seeing the same thing. And so we have to do that. And it's going to be a common thing. We need leadership that's going to execute and follow through rather than start something and it's just an idea, but it never is formed into a plan.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
My big thing is that we can't do anything in the city without a balanced budget. And I think that's one of the first things that has to happen. That's where the money's at. And all I've heard since I've been here is we can't take anything out. We're at the bare bones. And I have a copy of the budget. I've gone through it a couple of times. The budget can be balanced if you just put a little work to it. That's the way it is. The streets, they're really in bad shape. There's no doubt about that. I've been in a lot of cities in my lifetime, and this is really going downhill quick around here. I think we need to have a better working relationship with the state highway department, with the county, because the county buses going to the schools are tearing up the roads. So I think they should have a little bit of responsibility in helping the city. We do need to get some people in here. Where I came from, they had small plants. They went out and got small plants, automotive, not very big, almost the size of Kelly Springfield. And they've learned, other cities have learned how to bring in these small companies to get their tax base back up and get people back to work and get their cities to grow again. And Cumberland they need help. You're right. I mean, everybody talks about it, but I still say that budget has got to be fixed. You can't write checks if you don't have the money. And so that's probably one of my biggest priorities. Would go in and tackle that budget right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Our third question will go first to George. The bridges of Cumberland have been a topic of great concern and debate. What solution do you recommend, including funding and timeline?
Well, we got 3 bridges, and I know one of them on Washington Street, is terrible. And the Baltimore Street, when the county offered $5 million if the city would declare ownership of that bridge. I don't see what the problem is. I mean, if we declare ownership, it'll be 20, 30 years before some other problem comes up. And if we got $5 million, can repair it, we ought to do it. There's got to be negotiations done with CSX. And somebody's got to pick up the phone and call these people and try to make these deals to get these things done. Again, you go back to, I'm a businessman. We want a return on investment. We got to market and advertise. We have a lot of opportunities. We got to somehow or another figure out how to complete the Rolling Mills project. We need to really build a retirement center somewhere in this city. We got to work on the airport. We got to work on the canal place. We got to stop this on the vacant old courthouse sitting empty across the street from the city hall. Nobody's doing anything about it. Until we start developing these projects that are sitting in front of us, we get no return on investment, which means we get no increase of population. We can put a 5G high-speed internet in anymore, that the companies that have those will fund them and install them themselves. We need to develop the Willowbrook Road Shopping Center. We need to call and see if we can somehow or another get Green Ridge, that housing development, back in action. We've got the Appalachian Trail sitting in front of us. We got City Industrial Park. We got a river walk, which I tried to put kayaks in. We need to develop these things and make population grow.
Thank you, George. Ray?
Let's start with the Baltimore Street Bridge. Obviously, that's the one that the county has acknowledged that they have the funding for from the federal dollars that the county has. That, to me, is one that can be fixed very quickly without an issue and get it back and maintained properly. With the other bridges, obviously, the city seems stuck in the same mode and has for several years that CSX owns the bridges. CSX owns the bridges. Call CSX and tell them what the problem is. Well, you know, that hasn't seemed to work very well now, has it? We do need to negotiate with CSX. If you look back in 2015, CSX paid for a study for the Washington Street bridges and all of the bridges, and what they came back with was they asked the city to ask for federal dollars to rebuild the bridges at federal standards. That's something that could be very easily done. The federal government would pay 80% of the cost of redoing both the Cumberland and the Fayette Street Bridge. Washington Street Bridge is a little bit of a challenge, but it can also be done. Looking at that leaves 20% that would be divided between the city and the county. That's very doable. To me, it's just a matter of not having a sense of urgency to get these bridges fixed and not being willing to go out and negotiate and talk with CSX. This is something that should have been fixed a long time ago.
Thank you, Ray. David?
I agree. This shouldn't be an ongoing process. We need to have better business working relationships with our prides aside. The county is going to give us the money for the Baltimore Street Bridge. We need to go ahead and take care of that. We need to go back and have another conversation with CSX to find out what the problem is, because if our city officials aren't affected by these bridges being closed, then it's not going to be urgent. But the community, the Washington Street, the Cumberland Street, all the people that can't cross these bridges now and they have to go out of their way and it's no longer convenient, it's affecting them and they're not liking it. And so we need to go back to the drawing board and we need to start over and we need to have phone calls to them, find out what do we need to do, have a joint negotiation. What do you need from us? How can we help? What are you going to do? And let's see where we can come to a resolution to get these bridges back open for us to continue using them. And we need to find, and if it comes to a point where the city itself doesn't have the money to put to it, then we need to be aggressive in looking for outside funding so that we can get these bridges back open so our residents can continue to use them at their convenience.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
One of my biggest complaints, I guess, is it'll boil down to, and I've said this at the council meetings before, the city has a lack of leadership. We've got too many projects out there, and it just seems like nobody knows what the right hand's doing. And I've never seen a place like this. It's like these bridges. We've been talking about these bridges for I don't know how long, and I see nothing coming to fruit on anything. I don't know who they're talking to or whatever. But like I said, I've made my comments, and one of the things I think I'm pretty strong at is I have a strong leadership background. And that's one thing I think I want to commend here. And people are going to do their job. We're going to start getting things moving and all these little committees and stuff like that. I expect people to start doing their jobs.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
Well, George impressed me to begin with, and everything the other gentleman said seemed to be right on point. All I can say again is whatever the mayor wants to do, we get two council members to agree to it. And as George said, somebody's got to be making the calls. Are we going to pay the city solicitor $100 or $200 an hour to do it? Or am I going to do it? George's going to do it? The council member's going to do it? We got to get this stuff going because we've identified the problems and we know what some of the solutions are, but we got to get it done. Let's get it done.
Thank you, Robin. Our fourth question starts with Ray, and I will read it again. It's a long one, and I apologize. However, it's an important one. The Economic Development Strategic Plan the City of Cumberland is currently working under is from 2014. What is your overall opinion of the plan, including the formation of the Cumberland Economic Development Corporation, and what would you like to see included in future updates to the plan?
The plan that was instituted in 2014 has a lot of issues with it. Number one was with the rolling mill and how that entire project has been handled. That's the big thing. It's almost as if the Cumberland Economic Development Commission was developed just to separate the city from a lot of these issues. The key to it is the follow-through and the execution on the plans. We have the rolling mill plan. We see that is stagnant. We have the Baltimore Street plan. We've been talking about that for a long time. It looks like it may be coming to fruition, but yet we don't have a good streetscape for that yet, and that needs to be done. Brandon Butler, the new county administrator, announced here a couple of months ago that he's planning on putting in a new strategic economic development plan. The city must be included in that plan. The city of Cumberland must work with the county. Currently, there are 10 separate organizations in Allegany County working on economic development. These 10 entities need to be coordinated and need to work together. They don't have to all be doing the same things. We're probably doubling the hill on many of these objectives, and we need to make sure that they are coordinated and working together. I think that is the key to make sure that our plans come to fruition and we see the results.
Thank you, Ray. David?
Yeah, can you repeat that?
The Economic Development Strategic Plan the City of Cumberland is currently working under is from 2014. What is your overall opinion of the plan, including the formation of the Cumberland Economic Development Corporation, and what would you like to see included in future updates to the plan?
So I think in concept, the CDEC appears good. There's a group of businessmen that can focus on economic development. But what we've seen, instead of them having a successful first develop, we have the Rolling Mills project. And even to this day, there's no drawings, there's no anything to show a fill-in, there's nothing. So it was a disaster. There's nothing good right now, and I believe you guys on this same forum, you was talking about this to the candidates then, and the urgency to get it done then, and here we are, all these years later, and nothing has still happened. We have buildings missing, but nothing's there. So I think in concept, it is good. But when it came to application, it was a disaster. We need to revisit that. We need to get a hold of our developer and see what we can do with what we have now, because I don't even see that, going much further. I think that what I would love to see is there be more accountability with the CDEC and information being exchanged back and forth, so that we know what's going on, what are the plans, what is a plan that we can pursue, how can we execute something. We have undeveloped land that we could be using. RKG did a study back in 2014, and it's amazing. It's almost like when I read this study, it's almost like they took that plan, that study, and they stuck it on the floor, and they never looked at it again, because it is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of amazing points in there with rebranding, remarketing Cumberland, pushing forward with job growth, raising the morale, putting citizens first. There's a whole lot of stuff in there that I think we need to revisit that was done, that study that was done.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
I'm not impressed with anything that the city is doing as far as these boards and stuff are doing right now. I asked a question not too long ago, how much more money are we going to spend on this streetscape down on Baltimore Street? When are they going to start doing something? I said, and I was told, well, we're pretty much getting ready to roll on that. So I'm waiting to see what's going to happen here. I haven't seen anything. I haven't even seen a brick lifted or anything. The rolling mill, I made a comment. The city needs to get out of the real estate business. We need to get developers in here, let them do what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to develop the property, let them do it. They're the experts. The city shouldn't have nothing to do with that. We're spending money, and the developer is not putting up any kind of money. And I'm not even sure who the developer is anymore. I'm not sure if he's still in town or if he's left. So, like I said, it all falls back again on the leadership of the city. To me, there's just a lack of leadership, and we need to fix that problem.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
But that's probably the biggest reason why I finally got in the race was the disaster there at the Rolling Mill project. I've seen other disasters with our taxpayer money, but this one really took the cake. As far as I was learned in real estate course from Robbie Robinson and Liz Skidmore way back in the early 90s when I first went into real estate, I asked Gary Duckworth, who has over 400 real estate transactions in this county, Gary, is this as easy as it seems? I just need to get in there, fix these places up, turn a profit? Yep, that's all you got to do, boy. So, okay, so I jumped into real estate. Now I'm second in real estate transactions, as far as I know, to Gary, who's dead, God bless him. But you just don't go into a neighborhood and willy-nilly buy houses and then use taxpayers' dollars to tear them down and say, well, our tax base is decreasing. Well, when you're a little kid, woof and woof, you don't blow down the brick houses. So therefore, what you do, and when I was taught by Robbie, and by the way, Jeff Rhodes ought to know this, he's married to a realtor. He's the one that's making all the money, $120,000 a year. Anyway, what you do is you go into a neighborhood, you get an option for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and you try not to give them very much down and get them to agree to a price. And then, so you go to everybody, and if you can get it done for the amount of money you want to get it done, boom, you buy, and you're successful. You get in there, and hopefully everything goes great. But you just don't go in there and buy stuff and tear it down. If that was your money, if it was me and Gary Duckworth or Robbie Robinson doing that deal, we would have never put our own money into a deal like that. I mean, that's what people do with other people's money. There you go.
Thank you, Robin. George?
I spent about 2 hours with Paul Kelly going over the Rolling Mills project and everything else, and he and I pretty much agreed on a lot of things. But you go back to the same thing, it's a lack of leadership from the mayor, and I almost have a grim report. It's just, it is so bad right now. You need a full-time leader in that mayor's position to pick up the phone and make the calls to make these things happen. Otherwise, we're stuck. Real estate tax now is up 9.8%. Crime is 153% higher than the state average. 1 out of 15 chance of being a victim in Cumberland. Violent crime is 88% higher than the state average. 9 out of 10 crimes are drug-related. Property crime in Cumberland is up 167% higher than the state average. We have one of the highest opioid uses in the states, which is now 127 prescriptions for every 100 people. It's double the national rate. The city of Cumberland is borderline bankrupt. The population down 50%. Actually, Rolling Mills was a well-conceived idea. It's the same thing Mayor Schaefer did in Baltimore to develop the Inner Harbor. But it was so poorly executed, we're now down $3.5 million, and it's not even near completion. With the downtown mall, they're grasping at straws. They want to take another road grant, tear up the mall, put in new plumbing and everything. They have no idea the destruction that'll cause. We need to take the downtown mall and make it an attraction. I think my time's up.
Thank you, George.
Good job, George.
Okay, we have 2 more questions before we will take a short break. They too are economic development related, and they are specific, however, to projects within the plan. So, keeping with the theme of economic development, David goes first on the next question. Are you supportive of the proposed Rolling Mill Maryland Avenue redevelopment plan and its progress to date? Why or why not?
I would say that I'm supportive of the people, and the only thing at this point that we need to find or we need to get is a developer to draw us up plans to show us what a fill-in, a build-in would look like with the existing houses there, and businesses that would be strategically placed around there. I am 100% for the people, and some of these stories I heard and the back way that that people came in and tried to modern day mafia and muscle these people, I don't agree with. They are secondhand stories. I wasn't there to hear it or see it, but I don't agree with it. We need it. It's a perfect location for us to build up, but I think that if we had a better relationship, better transparency, and a better open dialogue with the people, we probably could have acquired that property rather than here we are, 17 houses left, and we haven't put up one building. We haven't even begun to start the progress that we so desperately know that we need, and that the finances and the tax base that can be generated from that area. So, like I said before, the concept is amazing. At this point, we're 4 years in. something needs to happen. A business needs to go up. The people need to see that we didn't just waste millions of dollars just to make an empty lot. Some progress needs to be seen. When people start seeing progress, they might start getting along with it. You know, maybe we can work a deal that the people in that area, they're older. I mean, we'll buy it from them whenever they pass away. You know, we need to come up with something. We need to show the people that we didn't just waste all this tax money that could have been invested elsewhere.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
Right now, I'm not happy with what's going on down there at all. I see no progress. I see no thought on where we're going with this. I don't see like I said, I don't see a developer. I don't see a plan. All I've seen is the money that the city has spent tearing down houses down there, and there's still several houses. If you go down there now, the corner of Mayoral Avenue and Williams, there's still several more houses need to be torn down. They're boarded up, so they're going to fall down probably one day, I guess. But there's just again, I see no progress. I just don't understand it. The city puts all this money up, and they talk about a developer, but I see nothing going on. So right now, I don't see it, and I can't support what's going on down there. I'd like to see development. I mean, there's a lot of land down there now. They've cleared out a lot of houses and stuff, but how long is it going to sit there with no return on our money for the city? It just kind of baffles me. I don't know.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
Well, I thought that was similar to the question we just had before, but I would like to just say that I eventually going to have a website out and a Facebook page, and I've done an awful lot of real estate research on this road mill project, and it, again, is real criminal. I got some overwhelming circumstantial evidence that should be presented to a jury, not just on this project, but some of these other ones. And eventually, I'll get that up on the website. If enough of you agree with me, maybe we can pressure Mikey Twigg there at the state's attorney, who nobody's running against him. I wish somebody would run against this guy. Maybe we can prosecute some of these people for not just the railroad mill, but for some of these other disasters that's been occurred. But this railroad mill does take the cake. I mean, it's just criminal. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Robin. George?
Rolling Mills, that's an interesting project. But again, I tell you that Mayor Schaefer did the same thing. They set up a separate entity and developed the Baltimore Inner Harbor. But this is so ill-conceived and executed that we have it's a tremendous problem. You got $3.5 million in it, and who's accountable? Well, I hold the mayor accountable. It's a grim report. And we're not done yet. They're talking about selling it to a development company out of Frederick for like $600,000. We're so upside down in that, it's unbelievable. Until we get a full-time mayor that can sit in that position, that has a business background, that knows how to make these deals and get these things done, we're going to continue on this same path, no matter what we do. It's horrible. The individual income right now, $20,000, Cumberland. The state, $36,600. Household medium income is $31,700. State is $74,000. Home prices, ours is $76,000. State medium, $270,000. We're 48% below the national average, and Cumberland has a 23% poverty rate. And I like it when, we got these people in politics and they sit there and they say, we got to bring in jobs, we got to do this. And all you hear is, I advocate this, I support that, I'm for that, we want to attract new business. But what's getting done? Who's picking up the phone and making these things happen? Nobody. Mayor Grimm doesn't sit there and work 40 hours a week. He's a part-time mayor, rubber stamps everything for the city administrator. If we want rubber stamp people, we could hire a chimpanzee.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Ray?
Good job, George.
Obviously, trying to grow the tax base by converting property at an interstate exit into commercial property is a move in the right direction. But this project has been mishandled from its inception. Transparency was lacking. The people that were going over there and talking with the residents of the rolling mill were not being open and honest with them about what was going on, and the residents were not given the respect that they were due. And that's a very sad state of affairs. A project like this works much better when a developer goes in from the beginning and has a plan and shows you the plan and says, this is what I'm going to put here, whether it's a hotel or whether it's restaurants or whatever it may be. And we have yet to see what the developer believes the plan can be, what we will actually be doing there. Now, obviously, with some of the residents wanting to stay, we now have the issue of a possible build-around. That's a tough pill to swallow after all the money that the city has put into it so far. But yes, let's see if that's the case. Let's see what that plan could be. Let's see what a build-around could look like. And if that's conceivable, then yes, maybe that should be considered. But if not, we need to get every bit of acreage there and develop a plan and get this property back on the tax rolls and increasing our tax base and helping the city's budget.
Thank you, Ray. One more question before we take a short break, and it goes first to Lawrence. What is your opinion on the proposed redesign of the Baltimore Street Pedestrian Mall?
I've only taken one look at the plans that they had in the city hall down there. When I was a police officer in Cumberland, there was no mall there, and I walked the beat there on Baltimore Street. Right now, I think the idea was good, but I'm not sure how it's working out. Nobody uses it down there from what I've seen. I've had a lot of people, they say they won't go down there after dark because of the panhandlers down there and stuff. So I'm not sure if it's a good idea to tear it up, start over again, or put another road back down there, or I know the infrastructure, they say it's got to be repaired. So any way you look at it, I guess it's going to get torn up. But to put it back the way it was or put a road in there, I'm just not sure about that just yet. I haven't really formed a good, solid opinion. I've been talking to a lot of people, and maybe after I've talked to more people, maybe I can get a better opinion of it.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
Personally, I've been hearing about the mall ever since I moved back up here in '91, so whatever, 20-some odd years now. I haven't looked at the studies Lawrence is talking about. However, I'm told they were looking to do a one-lane traffic through there with a possible bike lane and keep open the dining outside, which I like. I guess that would eliminate our Friday after 5 functions, which I play chess, and God, I love going down there the last 20 years of playing chess. And when Ed Mullaney run it down there, it was great events on Fridays. But let's face it, that one event through the summer is not going to increase the tax base. We need to fill the downtown up with those lofts, get fiber in there. Again, get small companies to be in there, or get some wealthy people in there to decrease the taxes. If we got to spend some money on infrastructure and fiber and so forth, so be it. And I know a lot of people are against the bike lane, but since we've got bike lanes everywhere else and connects to the canal and everything, I don't see why not keep it. Do not do 2 lanes. I think 2 lanes is a mistake. 1 lane, and as long, again, I'm only one man. If the two council members say they like the bike lane, fine. I'm 50-50 on the bike lane. But I can only get done what the people want and what the other 2 council members will vote for. And again, that's why I say some of these things is criminal. I don't know who the council members, along with Brian Grimm, was that voted for that Roa Mill project not to take options out when they first went in there. But again, I like to do things as if it's my own money, not the taxpayers' money. Would I do this with my own money? Would I put my parents, my friends, my investors, would I do this? And if the answer is no, then by God, we're not going to spend the taxpayers' money.
Thank you, Robin. George?
Yeah, we're back to the Grimm report, the Grimm
Yes.
Reaper. Let me tell you, the downtown mall, that's a disaster. We had that study done, RKG, back in 2014, recommended putting in the mall, taking out the mall. It's terrible. The only reason they want to do that mall is because they got a state grant available for roads, and they're going to transfer it to mode. And the only way they'll put a road down the middle of the mall, because that's what the grant's for. And once you pull up that ground, DeFonso, our city engineer, said if you're estimating $5 million, it'll be $10 million, because there's real problems down there. It's all about the grant money. Do we need a traffic? We need a family attraction down there. And I made a suggestion that may sound crazy, But I said, why don't we put an ice skating ring down the whole center of the mall, and then in the summertime convert it over to restaurant dining, same as Rockefeller Square. We need an attraction to bring people into that mall. There's no other way about it. I don't know whether it's an ice skating ring or something, but again, somebody's got to take the leadership to do these things and work them out. Just taking money to do something, pay me now or pay me later. You're going to pay one way or another. And the Rolling Mills project, I want to go back to that. If you put another shopping center in without a major anchor store like Cracker Barrel or something like, you're wasting your money. There's nobody going to go in those little stores and make a profit. The ones in there downtown now are not making a profit. I'm suggesting we put in a retirement condo center right in there so it's visible from 68 and start advertising. This place is a great place to retire for retirement people out of Baltimore, Washington, and Pittsburgh. It's a done deal. It'll work.
That's right, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Ray?
Excellent, George. I was going to bring that up.
To me, Baltimore Street, I've always liked the downtown pedestrian mall, but the reality is it really hasn't worked. It hasn't increased the value of the properties, and that's part of the reason that we're in the situation we are right now. Yes, the money is coming from a grant. Yes, that the state is going to pay $2.5 million, and it has to be a road. But in reality, having access to the businesses downtown is critical for their success. By people being able to drive by and see what's open, it only increases the volume of traffic that's going to come into the stores and the businesses that are there on Baltimore Street. You know, admittedly, the new streetscape is probably the most important thing. I haven't seen it yet. They're still working on it, but that's going to be critical to the development of Baltimore Street, is that it is aesthetically pleasing. I don't think we need a bike lane because the speeds are going to be so slow for the automobiles going through. A bike lane, quite frankly, in my opinion, is unnecessary, and it allows the sidewalks to be larger. That creates more area for people to do the outside dining that everyone enjoys. And I think that the key to it going forward is to see the streetscape and make sure that we get it right. But by providing access to the businesses, it's going to help.
Thank you, Ray. David?
So, I actually got to see a drawing of it whenever I went to visit the city administrator, and it looked really nice. It left room for outside dining to still be there. It looked really nice, but what I would say is, as a business, they're about their bottom line. And so the majority of businesses spend a lot of their money on advertising. So if we're going to put a road and you're going to get more people noticing your business, seeing your business, there's a lot of people that probably don't even go down on the mall because they don't want to walk it. So who's going to know that there's a City Lights, that there's the Manhattan down there, that there's a Marks? But whenever people start riding through, they're going to start noticing these things. They're going to have temporary parking where they can pull up for a timed amount. They can run in, they can jump out. So I like it. The only thing that there's a few businesses that they're going to suffer because their dining ain't going to be as much. There's a store down there that, a lot of his businesses with flowers, so he's not going to have a lot of room for that. I mean, so there's a little give and take, but I think that there's going to be more exposure to each business. There's going to be more exposure to the empty buildings that people can say, that's a really nice location. I can put a store here. Traffic's coming through. The exposure is going to be key, and I think it's going to be a benefit to the businesses down there. And I think it's going to be a plus.
Thank you, David. With that, we will take a short break. Welcome back. There are 7 candidates running for Cumberland mayor, 2 of which will advance to the general election in November for 1 seat as mayor. With us this evening are Lawrence Becker, Robin Hood Constitution, George Merling, Raymond Morris, and David Smith. For the benefit of those just viewing or joining us and viewing and listening to this forum, all candidates will be given the same question and have the same amount of time to answer each question. You will be given a notification as time expires. Additionally, we will alternate which candidate answers first. Let us resume. Question number 7 goes to Robin first. Our current public Are current public safety personnel staffing levels sufficient to ensure the safety of our police, fire, and EMT professionals and our citizens? Why or why not?
Well, I've done a little bit of research on that by talking to retired and current city policemen and/or state and sheriffs, etc. I have come to the conclusion, talking to all of them, that we don't want to, cut back anymore or do any more attrition, to keep it where we're at or even higher. So since that's a consensus with the law enforcement guys, I'm fine with that. We just got to find money to, keep it where it is and/or to have money to hire. However, I would like to say, if I was king for a day, etc., I would make some of these positions, such as the Cumberland Chief of Police, just like the sheriff, maybe even Lieutenant Martz up at the State Police Barracks, make them run for office every 4 years. And I would do the same thing, again, if I was king for a day or if all it took was 2 council members' votes, I would make Judge Finan and the other fellow up there, Mr. Getty, stood running every 16 years, like in Washington County, or not, excuse me, over here in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, these fellows would run every 4 years. And the district court judges, Price and Malloy, again, every 4 years, the voters would decide. Now, if you like me, Mayor, and the citizens agree with that, again, you got to pressure these other 2 council members to make that happen, and we may even have to pressure some local delegates, et cetera. I think that's a great thing for the whole state of Maryland. But that can only happen if you have a movement and people have the, what do you call, will to pull it off. You got to stand up, and you got to make it happen. And I can only do something without everybody's help. So that's all I got for that right now.
Could you repeat that question?
Thank you, Robin. George, our current public safety personnel staffing levels sufficient to ensure the safety of our police, fire, and EMT professionals and our citizens? Why or why not?
Well, with the decrease in population, it's probably sufficient at this time. In fact, we'll have a real serious problem funding this in the near future, so I don't know where we're going to go with that. Again, we got to go back to somehow or another increasing the tax base. We need to get more income coming into this city. And the city, back to the Grimm report, and of course he's not here, Cumberland has earned a reputation that doing business in Cumberland is just not worth it. Most of the business people I know, they don't even want to come into Cumberland. You got a mall tax, you got zoning problems, you got permitting problems, you got unwelcome indifference from the people that you work with in the city. Vacancies on the downtown mall, the rents are so low. They're like $3 a square foot, and they can't fill the spots. They can't fill the spots because there's no traffic. There's no traffic, there's no business. And if you think putting a road down the middle is going to give them more traffic, what, they're going to drive by and look at the vacant stores? That's not going to work. So we got to change this, and of course it's the mayor's responsibility. He's got to take responsibility for what he's doing. We need deregulation of ordinances. Our sign laws are so ancient that they're restrictive to even promoting businesses. I've asked for them to be changed for 5 years. Nothing's being done. The permitting department, you ever go try to get a permit and do a job in this area? Let me tell you something, you better have an extra $150,000 in your pocket just to even think about it. We need to change these things again to market, advertise the thing. And number one, we got to get the crime down, which means the police chief has got to be held responsible. That's his job, and I'm going to make him do it. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
That's right,
Ray?
George. Good job.
Let me start off by saying I was able to go on a ride around with the police officers last Friday night, and I was very impressed by the professional of the officers that I rode with. I think we have a highly trained, high-quality police officers and a well-run police department. Only 4% of the police departments in our country are accredited, and ours is one of that 4%. So the standard that the chief has his people operating under is very good. Are they properly staffed? The reality is they've been running short here for the last few years. Right now, they are at least 3 positions short. Are they staffed sufficiently? Probably not, with the opioid crisis and the strain that is putting on our city. George, just a few minutes ago, went over all of the crime rates and how they're up. Yes, they are. So because of that, I believe that the police department needs to be fully staffed and well trained, just as they are. As far as the other services, on the emergency services side, that's something that I truly believe the city and the county need to work together on a consolidated emergency services. That's something that can not only save money, but can also stay with the same standard and the same response times that we have now. And that takes the city and the county working together as they should.
Thank you, Ray. David?
Public safety is definitely a number one priority. That's why a lot of people like living in the cities, because when they make that phone call, the ambulance is going to show up within a few minutes. The police are going to show up, fire trucks. And what's unique, and what Ray was just saying, our police force is CLIA certified. And so I went on a ride along a while back, and they're amazing men and women. The issue that we have is that if there's 5 on a unit and 1 makes an arrest, now you only have 4 on the streets because 1's tied up in court. So there's some things that we have to do to streamline that, to bring that around, so we're not having an officer being paid just to sit at the commissioners. We need to have like some type of centralized booking where they can drop them, write the report, and just go on. And safety is such an important issue that there's the basic needs of a person is like food, water, shelter. Safety is the next one. We'll never get past safety if people don't feel safe. So we need to have our police there. They need to feel like there's enough staff that they're not wound down, that if they get into an altercation and then when they yell out for more officers, that they're going to be there, that they're not bogged down. So I think that we need to be more creative. We need to figure out where's our tickets money going from? Is it dedicated to the city, that it's helping the police force? We need to just get behind that, because public safety should be the number one priority of a city that's going to be growing.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
I'll go back and based on experience, I think they're staffed sufficient for right now without going over there and going through their roster and their shifts and see what they do. But based on the city, when I was here at 45,000, we didn't have that many more police officers than what we got now. The fire department, probably about the same. But like I said, again, I would have to take a look. I know we didn't even have an EMS system when I was here. We had McDonald privatized ambulance service here. We didn't have an EMS. So I would have to take a look at all that. And also the city I just came from, 45,000 people, we had a paid fire department, and police department was just about the same amount of people. So, and we had crime, we had banks robbed, we had the same thing. The drug issue is worldwide. It's everywhere. So you just can't say Cumberland has it. Everybody's got it. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's all about leadership, how you run your department, and how things can be done. That's it.
Thank you, Lawrence. Our next question goes to George first. No one is immune from the nationwide opioid crisis. How do you feel it should be addressed to minimize its effect on our community?
That's a serious problem, and that's got to be attacked from all angles, including rehabilitation, treatment, all the way down the line. But I have to disagree with some of my colleagues here. The police department needs to be held accountable. I don't care what anybody says. When we have the worst averages in the state of Maryland for a small city of 19,870 people, and our police force, the number of employees is a standard number for cities bigger than us, and we're not getting the results. How can Cumberland, Maryland, have a crime rate 153% higher than the state average? Opioid use now is 127 prescriptions for every 100 people. It's double the national rate, 66.5 prescriptions per 100. If you say, these people in the police department are wonderful people, there's no doubt. They're great people, they're well-trained and all, but something's not working. Something's not working here, because we got an opioid out of control beyond any state level, national level. So somewhere or another, we got to make some changes on this. I don't know what it is. Of course, being an owner of the medical marijuana dispensary, I do have to say, and I will repeat it, that the dispensary is noted across the national averages across the United States, opioid use will drop 30 to 40% where any medical marijuana dispensary opens. So I hope that has a benefit to this community somewhat at this time. But again, you've got to hold these people responsible. And if it can't be done, then we got to figure a new way to do it.
Thank you, George. Ray?
I think the opioid crisis is something that needs to be handled on a lot of different levels. Now, number one is education. Our doctors are over prescribing. Our youth needs to be taught the dangers. It's not like years ago when people could experiment with drugs. These drugs are much more powerful than they were before, and we need to prevent kids from even starting. And that starts with the medical professionals, also with their prescriptions and of the opioids. The second part of it, obviously, is rehabilitation. We need to have good facilities in the city and the county for the people that have gotten themselves addicted to the opioids. We need to take care of these people, and we need to give them a safe place to be treated. Law enforcement must also enforce the laws. George is right. We need to enforce the laws. But when that part of that, we need to make sure that when a police officer makes an arrest, that person is also getting help, that he's not just being taken down to the jail and let go 24 hours later without getting some sort of treatment and not being handled medically. We need to do this. The best thing to do, I believe, would be to have a drug task force that included educators, medical providers, and law enforcement working together on all levels to attack the problem.
Thank you, Ray. David?
I think we have to be proactive because it's a decision, and we do need to educate, and we need to start educating young. Right now, we're not doing nothing to mold young lives in this area. So what are they doing? They're resorting to video games, YouTube, and whatever their friends are saying. We need to build the next generation and not allow the world to influence it. So activities where they're healthy will be crucial to this next generation coming up. And so instead of them experimenting with drugs, that they're the next athlete, the next chess player, the next marble roller, the next computer science person. We need to captivate our kids now before we're revisiting this again, but now they're older. Education is a huge one. Rehabilitation is a huge one. And the law enforcement, making sure, because there is a program in place, to my knowledge, that whenever they're arrested, whenever there's an OD, an officer, a probation officer, and a counselor shows up to their house. We haven't heard of any statistics, the outcome. What does that look like? How has that been effective? We don't know what that looks like. It might not be effective at all, but we need to do something. We need addicts to know that they are people too, that they shouldn't be afraid to come up to any person that's a public official, a law enforcement officer. They need to know that it's okay, that they're with them, that their city will stand behind them, and that we'll walk with them to get them to the help they need. We can't just keep walking away like it's not nothing. We can't arrest our way out of it. We have to be personal. This election is about being personal, about someone that's addicted, that their families are dying, that their mothers are dying, kids are going in foster care at irate numbers. We need to be very, very active because this is our next generation coming up, and we can't sit on our hands. We have to educate them, and we want them to know that we love them and we're there for them.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
This is something that I think the medical field has to take the bulk of the stance, and I think they're doing it. I haven't looked into it that much, but the doctors write the prescriptions. So if they start cutting back or watch who they're giving them to, and they have a program of monitoring, that might help a lot. But like I said, the drugs can't get on the street unless a doctor writes a prescription, unless the people are stealing them from the factories or whatever. So I put that back on the doctors, that we need to take a better look. And also the education, I agree with that. We've got to start educating people at a younger age. Don't wait till they become drug addicts and then want to try to educate them, because you can't force anybody to go into a treatment facility unless they say yes. It just doesn't happen, because I've got personal experience with things like that. And you can offer all the help you want, but unless they want it, it's not going to happen. So, but education is a good thing, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. But it's got to start young. You can't wait till these kids get to be teenagers and then try to help them, because sometimes they're too far gone. And I hope that's not the case, but I know it is, because I've personally seen it. So, but if the doctors get on the bandwagon and start watching these prescriptions they're writing, I think that would help out a heck of a lot.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
Earlier I was the last one to answer, and I thought the other fellows did an excellent job, but I'll go ahead and try to chime in a few things. And you're so right, Lawrence. If people don't want it, they can go to as many rehabs as forever and a day. And that's the way it is. I love the, what do you call free fellowships, the Narcotics Anonymous, the Gamblers Anonymous, the Alcoholics Anonymous, all those 12-step programs with their traditions and their promises. They do work more so than going to these expensive individual cancers that only people who have insurance can pay for, or our tax dollars for these kids with the Medicaid, they're going to see them, and again, our tax dollars paying. As far as the police issue, as far as are they doing enough with the opioid crisis with all these great statistics my friend George here just quoted? Again, earlier I said I talked to lots of police, retired and current. The answer is, frankly, the leadership starts at the top, and the chief of police here in Cumberland is not doing the job he needs to be doing. Jason Merritt is running for against Greg Robinson for the deputy sheriff. Excuse me, not deputy sheriff, the sheriff. That man, he's all about the opioid crisis. Jimmy Powell's all about the opioid crisis. The former sheriff, David Goad, who I think is a great man. I got the ultimate respect for him. He's running for, I think, Red District of Wills. If he doesn't get it, and if I could be mayor, and again, I can get two council members to agree, and say Jimmy or Jason Merritt or David Goad or one of these other retired policemen I know wants to step in and and get in there and be the chief of police, I'd love to see the Cumberland Police go in a different direction. But again, it's not just me. I'm only one guy. I got to get the followers, the two council members got to agree, or two out of the four. But I do believe in change in leadership at the police department. And George touched on earlier about the retirement community. Oh, the lights up. So I'll try to hit that later. But again, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Robin. Our next question goes first to Ray. How do you propose strengthening the budget, specifically in the areas of increased taxes, expense reduction, and consolidation of services?
We've all noticed that it gets harder and harder to set the city's budget. They just finalized it here this week, and they were able to run a balanced budget again. But we're facing these issues because it's a triple threat problem: rising costs, declining tax revenues, and deferred maintenance. We've put off a lot of things, and now it's come home, and then work needs to be done. We need to begin a process to address the root problems at a longer view than just 12 months at a time. It's not possible to get all of this done overnight, but we need City Hall to lead with a clear vision of what our city can be 5 years from now and 10 years from now. We can't afford to manage our physical affairs on an annual basis. We need to look further down the road. As far as the taxation, obviously we just went through a 9.75%. Oh, wait a minute, that's 10%. We just had a 10% tax increase. And we're told we have to have this 10% tax increase to maintain the status quo. We're not getting anything additional for that 10%. To me, we went 7 or 8 years without a tax increase, and what that shows me is that the people weren't really watching and paying attention. Oh, we have to have a 10% tax increase. Obviously, we need better management of city government, and that's what it takes.
Thank you, Ray. David?
Can you repeat the question?
How do you propose strengthening the budget, specifically in the areas of increased taxes, expense reduction, and consolidation of services?
I think an evaluation has to be done to see what these services are, and if there's an overlay so much that they could be consolidated down within City Hall, We have a staff in with City Hall that was there since population 50,000. There's no way that every person is being productive with their time, in our tax money. The citizens' tax money is being stewarded correctly. We're not being responsible. I don't think we're necessarily spending responsibly. We have kicked this can, and I just say, who's going to pick it up and recycle it already? Like, we got to figure something out, and I think taxes is not going to be the answer. It's going to be having good relationships to increase tax base, not taxing the people.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
I wish I brought my notes on the budget. I've been working on this budget now for over a year. I even went down and bought my own copy of the budget so I could go into it. And there's a lot of areas in there that can be reduced without affecting services whatsoever. I did get to talk to the comptroller the other day when they had the final budget meeting, and I gave him a few ideas. And it's like he told me, though, he only proposes the budget. He doesn't make the decisions on what stays and what goes. But there are several things, and I know what they are, and I would take it, and take that, and I'd go line item by line item in each department, and I could probably cut that budget by a third, probably, easy. And I won't raise taxes if I become mayor. That's a fact. I don't believe in it. I believe there's things we could do with that budget and get that squared away first. And I've seen too much waste in there, and I just can't believe that Cumberland spends the money they do, and without any kind of justification from what I can see. I guess they've been putting it in the budget for so long that they just keep doing it, and nobody says anything. Nobody's looking at it. But like I said, there's a lot you can do with that budget, trust me.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
Go ahead and repeat that again, because I don't know if I can answer the whole question accurately. I'll just try to take on parts of it.
How do you propose strengthening the budget, specifically in the areas of increased taxes, expense reduction, and consolidation of services?
Okay, well, again, as far as increasing taxes go, recently we had the 10% raise, and now they're raising the water sewer rates that went through the roof the last 20 years. Again, I'm no tax and spend guy, but I can, as Lawrence say, give a pledge right now, and I'm sure Lawrence would, probably the other three guys would, maybe we'd have to ask them. No new taxes. I'm not in favor of any water sewer rates, any new taxes whatsoever. If you want to raise some money the old-fashioned way, hand out a bunch of more speeding tickets, or what do you call seatbelt fines or something, again, bigger fines on the drug offenders or somebody, you tell me. I just don't want it to fall on the good citizens that can't, hardly make it, on these low wages and or their fixed income that own their own homes, etc. I will definitely pledge no new taxes, whether it be property or city. And as George said earlier, I want to touch on this, if we can get the retirement community in here through marketing, I don't care if we need to put up a bunch of billboards, we need to pay somebody too much to market for us. We need to get the retirement community people in here, because we have an awful lot to offer here, not just in Western Maryland. And that is huge. That increases the tax base, which gives us more of a budget to do more things with. But as Lawrence said, a lot of people could look at that budget and say, well, I'm not spending that money the way I would spend it. We're not getting any bang for our buck. These people are spending money like drunken sailors, like it's somebody else's money. Again, I can give you lots of examples, and perhaps later on when I get my website, you'll see maybe Mr. Twigg might want to be prosecuting some people. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. George?
Well, the budget taxes, I've sat in them meetings and listened to it, and it's pretty tough. The only thing I really didn't understand is that they spent $3.5 million on rolling mills, and I never did ask the question of the controller if we had that $3.5 million back in the budget would be solvent. I don't know, but that could have been a bearing on where we stand today. But we have to live within a budget no matter what we do, and then the only way you do that is it's probably a reduction of personnel if it comes to it, or the last bankruptcy or consolidation with the city or county. That's something that's going to play out in time. To change that around immediately is impossible.
That's right.
Again, we're back to, we got to bring in the population, stimulate the city, we got to have growth. Part of this, I hate to go back to Grimm again, but we need good relationships. And I'll give you an example. The governor came in town a couple of months ago, and he held a public gathering at the country club. Mayor wasn't there. And then downtown, he went downtown and he was telling everybody how much money he spent in Allegany County. Mayor wasn't there. We need people who promote this and make relationships and help us bring money and promote this area. He had that City Hall meet and greet tonight. That was a waste of my time, waste of my talents. How's that? We've got to stop that. We've got to make things productive. We've got to increase our tax base some way or another. If we don't, might as well turn the lights out. Like I say, we're bleeding, and this Cumberland is on life support. I don't know when it's going to end unless, we need a full-time mayor.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Next question goes first to David. Is poverty a problem in our community? Why or why not? And if so, what is the solution?
Poverty is a huge issue, and it has been in this community for a really long time. We don't have a system that will take somebody that's from poverty to lift them up and to elevate them. It's more like, it's kind of like feeding them with crumbs. So if everything that we ever do is always bring a minimum wage job, how will they ever rise above anything, especially whenever they have families, they're raising kids, you have single mothers, you have a drug epidemic. There's a lot of things that are really, in this puzzle piece. And I believe 100% that I'm a success story to that, because my life started off on the bottom end of the spectrum. That I grew up barely having what I had, and I made decisions and life choices to be where I am today. So I've been poor, and then I've been successful, and I think that we need to promote unity, togetherness, and building each other and lifting each other up. No more of this like big eyes, little U's. It's us. It's Cumberland. We need to rise, and we need to rise together, and we need to bring in jobs to get rid of poverty, jobs that are above the median income. I mean, when I started working, minimum wage was like 5 something. It's going to be 10.10 here in July. I mean, that's a big jump. Cumberland really hasn't changed much, but we need to get it where people are making enough money where they can cover their bills, feed themselves, and save. They need all three of them so they can continue to rise, but we need to rise together. We need to promote unity, togetherness, and uplift each other instead of standing on each other.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
The poverty level, I would say it goes back to jobs again, just like we've talked about over and over here. And also, I don't think I've ever lived any place that had to pay the taxes that I pay, that for real estate taxes on my house here is probably twice what I paid where I came from. And it is going to get worse the way I see it with the administrations down there now. They want to raise taxes again. I knew they weren't going to raise them this year because it's election year, but I wouldn't be surprised if whoever's in there, they might push it for next year. I don't know. But we got a lot of senior citizens living in this town, and they own property, and I hear them talking at the council meetings that the taxes are really bad, and they are bad from what I've seen in other places. But we need to get some decent jobs in here too, and then, like I said, that's a tough thing. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but I think we need to have good people working on it too. And I'll fall back on the leadership thing again, and we need people to guide people or whatever to get these places in here. There's a lot of potential in Cumberland. I agree with what George said. There's a lot of potential here. We just got to get somebody to react and get something going on. And I hope it comes soon, because like he says, this town is dying if we don't get it moving.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you repeat the question again, please?
Is poverty a problem in our community? Why or why not? And if so, what is the solution?
Well, the whole daggone United States, except for some different pockets where, like, say, fracking was going on, or some tech communities pop up where they're building warehouses along the interstate. Our whole country, where do they come up with these damn stats of like 3-4% unemployment nationwide? Hell, that's bullshit. Those are propaganda numbers. I mean, that's bullshit. I mean, we have a hell of a terrible poverty level here. I mean, most everybody here is getting these SSI checks for $735 a month, and they think that's big money. Practically everybody in the city limits of Cumberland is getting food stamps. They're out there selling them for 50 cents on the dollar. I mean, what we need to do, I guess, eventually is be like some of these European countries, start paying people to stay home. Say, well, we're not going to be a small country anymore. You know, everything's going to China and over to Asia. Let them people do it. We'll just pay you to stay home. Keep writing more checks. Up their food stamps. Up the SSI. I mean, in fact, again, poor people can't even buy toilet paper with their stupid food stamps. They can go buy an $8 milkshake at Sheetz, and they steal the napkins so that they can use them for toilet paper, but they can't even buy toilet paper, paper towels, just essentials, women's, what do you call, necessary products, etc. We need stuff revamped on a national level, and all I can do as mayor is, recruit some other mayors, see what our Governor Hogan can do. He's a good guy. We got a lot of good guys in office. Again, I do not have the answers, but the hell yes, we have a poverty problem here, and it's not just us. And I'm good at identifying problems, and if I can come up with a solution, which I need help with, and that's a bigger event than me. God help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. George?
Again, Mayor Grimm's been a mayor for 8 years. Cumberland has a 23% poverty rate, is the highest in the state. The people who were highly qualified have moved away to get jobs in other areas. They've left Cumberland. We used to have the Celanese, Kelly, paper mill, PPG, the coal mines, and these were great jobs for blue-collar workers. We don't have them anymore. And without, again, we're back to the increase of the population. If we don't figure a way to bring in people, increase the population, increase the tax base, we're not going to make it. And we can't go out and think we're going to bring in General Motors or 500 jobs. We don't even have the people to fill the jobs. So my suggestion again is back developing a good retirement community.
Yes.
I'm an entrepreneur. Business is my business. I know what I'm doing. And the only way you can do this is devote yourself to taking the lowest fruit on a tree and developing it and making things happen. If this election is going to be a personality contest, I'm going to lose. But if you're going to elect the best candidate to turn this city around, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman, and I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Ray?
Yes, obviously, poverty is an issue with our community. Just like George just said, 23% of our people that live in Cumberland are living in poverty, and that's very sad. The main reason has been the loss of the blue-collar jobs. The last when Kelly left, and I believe it was 1986, that was the last really high-paying blue-collar position factory that we had. The solution isn't going to be easy to find. Nobody sitting here today can tell you that they actually have the solution. But it worked. It's the community working together. It's economic development working together. All of the organizations within Allegany County working together to try to bring in better paying jobs, because that is what it's going to take. And that can be done. Are we going to go out and get somebody that's going to hire 400 or 500 people? That's a grand slam, and it'd be great. But the reality is we can bring in tech jobs. We can bring in small startups, people that are going to hire 10 to 15 people. That's going to be the key to our future. The other thing we have to stop doing is we have to stop telling our kids, you're going to have to leave Cumberland if you want to be successful. We've been telling them that for too long. So a lot of the kids who have high potential have left and don't think they can come back. and we need to make sure that we're telling them, you can do something here. You may have to be a little creative, but you can. And we also have to train our young people for the proper positions. Not everybody is going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Not everybody needs to go to college. Some people need to work in our building trades. We have a lack of qualified people in the building trades, and we need to work in that direction to provide opportunities for the future.
Thank you, Ray. Next question goes first to Lawrence. Is the current course of action sufficient, in your opinion, to address blighted properties in the city, both residential and commercial? Why or why not?
It's a good question. I haven't really looked into it that heavily since I've been here, but from what I've seen, I used to be a code enforcement officer where I came from. That was another one of my collateral jobs, so we didn't get into the property so much as tearing them down and stuff like that, but trying to keep them clean and things. We're supposedly have 2 code enforcement officers here, and
3, I believe.
well, 2 to do housing, I guess, and 2 to do MPA stuff. I talked to somebody around here about it one time, and they told me that the court system was the problem with the blighted properties and not getting them fixed. They said they write tickets to the homeowners, the landowners and stuff like that to get things repaired and stuff like that, and the courts won't do anything. And I asked the question, I said, well, if the courts didn't do anything, why didn't you go to the governor? He's the one that puts the judges on the bench. And if they're not going to help the city, clean the city up, and make the owners responsible, not the city, its owners need to be responsible for cleaning up these blighted properties, not the city. And then I said, anybody try to do that? And of course, no. They just apparently just never did anything. And I ride this city a lot every day, and I see a lot of properties running around that I don't know why they're still standing, to be honest with you. And I don't know who they belong to. I don't know what the city's getting into, who they're talking to or anything like that, but it's a problem here. And again, people are not doing their job as far as I can see. I really don't know.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
I'm all for tearing down old wood frame houses without a date electrical in them. However, you got to be seriously deranged to be tearing down brick structures. Like, for example, this rolling mill project and other houses, the mayor brags, I've torn down more houses than the other 50 mayors combined, or last 10 mayors combined. Yeah, it's easy to do with taxpayer dollar because you're getting a grant when the high school students and older people would maybe like to come in, fix these houses up, and increase our tax base. What we're doing, we're tearing down brick houses that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to frame up now. Take that stupid church they paid $680,000 for up there, Friendship Haven on the corner of Mayoral Avenue. By God, that church could have stayed there. We never would have had to bought them out. We could have kept them a church. They had no parking. They had like 8 parking spots. Why pay $680? We wouldn't have done it with my money. Then you tear down a building that would cost millions of dollars to build. So if you did buy it, the church paid $100,000 for it, but way back 10, 15 years ago. Buy it off of them for $120,000, take it or leave it, and then the developer, which we don't even have, could make it into storage and/or shops, etc. It goes with all the other steeples here in Cumberland. Again, people do not spend money as if it was their money. It just reeks of corruption and incompetence. And I learned it from my grandfathers long time ago, and my mother, again, a graduate from here, and these teachers I've had here. You can't always tell if they're corrupt or incompetent, but sometimes it's damn obvious.
Thank you, Robin. George?
Blighted properties. My understanding, the city's already purchased or took in 199 of them. I don't know how many tore down, but somebody's got to start looking at these things, the return on investment. You start tearing stuff down, you better find out what the hell you're going to do with the property. You just let it sit. Somebody's got to figure a way to develop it. I don't know whether that's building a house on it or tearing something down or rehabbing a house before you tear it down. If you just keep spending money without a return on investment, we're back to the same thing again. We're broke. You know, everybody wants to tear down houses, but you know, where's our return on investment? Oh, the city looks prettier? Well, we got nothing. We can't eat. You know, we got to be able to eat. the housing is the same thing. It's back to the population decrease. We got to take this town, take the low-hanging fruit. My suggestion, again, will be over and over again. We got to develop a retirement community, get people in here who might look at these pieces of ground. Maybe we can build a house in there on specs and start selling it to the retirement community if we build them to their specifications and needs. Just to spend money to tear houses down, come on, guys. You know?
Yeah.
I know it's a need, but having food, bread, and water and stuff is a bigger need than that. So I don't know what they're doing there. I pass. Next.
Thank you, George. Ray?
True that, George.
With blighted properties, I think actually it starts with the homeowners that we have now. We need to hold them accountable. We need to make sure that homeowners are taking care of their property and maintaining it to a high standard. We need to develop codes that are easily enforceable and can be enforced. Clear, concise codes, well enforced, will help immensely. But it's good to fight blight, but it's more important to have a clear vision for what's going to follow. Great communities are built on great neighborhoods. If Cumberland's neighborhoods are not good places to live, there's no way to grow our city back to a sustainable size. We need to take down the blight. We need to get our communities, our neighborhoods working together and holding each other accountable for the property.
Thank you, Ray. David?
We need to take these blighted properties and allow house flippers to go in and look at them. And if they're worth flipping, we just kept our tax base. And then it's going to go on. It's going to be a rehabbed house. It's going to look nice. Someone's going to come buy it. That's my thought. If it isn't salvageable, we have to tear it down because it's really bringing down the value of everything around. But here's what I will say, because I keep hearing it over and over. Retirement homes, people retire and go there to die. Cumberland's not dying. This can be a retirement community, but what happens with the people that are retiring? What are they going to do here? There's absolutely nothing here. We need to change what's going on. We need to change the pace of things. We offer nothing to children, to teens, to healthy, growing parents, to the elderly. We have nothing. We need to start with something, and we have to offer something. No one's going to want to retire to Cumberland when there's nothing here but a Martin's and a pothole. Who wants that? They can't even use the sidewalks because they're not fixed. No, we don't need a retirement town. We need a thriving city that's alive and well.
Thank you, David. Our last question before closing remarks goes to Robin first. The relationship between the mayor and city council of Cumberland and the county commissioners has been strained at times. What can be done to repair that relationship and improve cooperation?
Well, again, as everyone knows, we really need great cooperation with county and state. And I will say this, one of the reasons I got politically active was when the county commissioners Stakem, Hutchinson, and Lewis tried to come up with their own freaking police force, the Bureau of Police, which tased me 7 times. Anyway, long story short, we got rid of those guys. And I see now, Stu, that you're and some other candidates are running for county commissioner. I have no problems with the current 3 county commissioners, Mr. Valentine, Jake Shade, and the other one, Creed Brody. I haven't heard any bad things about them. But I feel that you and Mr. Darrell Powell and these other fellows must think you can do a better job. So therefore, I wish you guys the best, and I will work with anybody that has good ideas that I agree with. And if I don't agree with them, you know who my advisors and friends are. Talk to them and get through to them. They'll probably come get me to change my mind, because I will change my mind on anything if I like the information. And if I can't, I say, please everybody, I flip a damn coin and tell you I flipped a coin, and that's the way we went. But again, I don't have a problem with county commissioners. And Stu, I definitely wish you the best. Hopefully you can become a new commissioner. Not that the other fellows are bad. But I can, like I said, would love to say for the record, we did have a couple bad ones at one time. Thank God they're, retired or dead. That's it. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. George?
Read that question again, please.
The relationship between the mayor and city council of Cumberland and the county commissioners has been strained at times. What can be done to repair that relationship and improve cooperation?
Well, I have a very good personal relationship with Jake Shea, and I also have a pretty good relationship with some of the other people. It's a matter of building a relationship, and that's the responsibility of the mayor. And if the mayor works at it and he knows how to do it, he should be able to build that relationship. It's like any business. If you want to do business, you got to work together. And that's the goal. And most of these people are earnest. They really want the best for this county and city. So it's just a matter of working it. But I wanted to address something else about this community being a retirement thing, and these people are coming here to die. Florida is one of the richest retirement states in the United States.
True that.
And it is so affluent that they have no state taxes. These
right.
people aren't going down there to die. They're going down there to live their later part of their lives and have a good, safe, happy retirement. So that's what we want to promote here, not a waiting room for them to come here to die. Again, back to the mayor. Mayor comes 8 years. If we don't have a good working relationship with the county, whose responsibility is that? It's the mayor's. So we have to scratch that and start all over. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thanks,
Ray?
George.
I think the key to the relationship between the mayor and the commissioners comes down to the ability to work with others. Unfortunately, with our current mayor, I think he has shown that he has a difficulty doing that. It seems like everything that he does, it's either has to be his way or we cannot do it. Just as all the drama we had with the forums. You know, we had to do his forum his way because he could not come here to participate in this one. That was something that could have easily been solved. All he had to do was politely decline to come here for whatever reason he had and set up his forum, which really was just a meet and greet, for another date and time. It's that inability to work with others that I believe is causing most of the problem. And that's why I think we need a change as who the mayor of Cumberland is. That's one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor.
Thank you, Ray. David?
The city and the county have mutual interest. If we get a good handshake and we complement each other, that we have a healthy working relationship, there's a lot of things that we could even save money on, even when it comes to certain services. So any business wants to have good working partnerships with other people that are involved. And I think that that's what we need. And it has been shown over and over that we do have some people that don't work well with others for whatever reason or another. And that needs to change because the city, the people are the one are getting it the most. It's not the county government, it's not that, it's the residents. So if I was to have a better working relationship with the county, would we be able to afford to do more infrastructure? Would we be able to afford to do different things that right now we're trying to figure out how to get us out the red? Like, so we're raising insurance premiums just to get us into the black, but there's so many things that whenever I talk to the commissioners that we could complement each other on, that we should be. It needs to be healthy. No one's enemy. Our goal here, pride aside, is Cumberland, is to raise Cumberland. When Cumberland thrives, it used to be the center for Western Maryland. Right now, it's barely surviving. So we need to get back to where we have healthy relationships with all local governments, state governments, your Congress. We need to be on the same page and look out what's for best for the people and not so much what we want to do or how we think things should be.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
My big thing is trying to get things back together as I use communication and respect. If you don't talk to each other, you'll never accomplish anything. If you don't respect each other, you won't accomplish anything.
That's right.
And it's not that hard to sit down and get together and talk over things. The county, I'm sure they know what their responsibilities are. The city should know what their responsibilities are. And if you just sit down and talk to each other, I think you can get a whole lot more done. And what's being done now, it seems like we have these little skirmishes, and I don't understand that. I worked with a lot of county people, a lot of state people, where I worked at, and I never had any issues getting things done. I had a good rapport with everybody, and I hope to get that done up here also. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. It's now time for closing remarks. This too, you have up to 2 minutes, and we start with George.
Well, I'm George Merling, and I'm running for mayor because I'm trying to give back to the city, and I care about the city. I'm an entrepreneur, and business is my business. I've been in at least 15 different major businesses. I've been a lectured guest speaker at Frostburg State University. I've given a speech on 101 business at the World Trade Center in Bogota, Colombia. I've given a guest speaker on business in the National University of Bogota, Colombia. I've given a speech in 101 guest speaker, University of Buenos Aires. I was U.S. Army from 1961, 4 years active. In 1964 and 1978, I got out of there with a Master Sergeant, honorable degree. I've been a member of the Boy Scouts, Allegany Chamber of Commerce. I have a real estate license in Florida, been to Toastmasters, DMLA, and the Medical Marijuana Dispensary Association. My business is business, and I know how to stop the bleeding and turn Cumberland around. And if you vote for me, I know what to do and how to do it, and I don't take any prisoners. We're going to make something happen, and we're going to turn the city around. I need your support, and I really need a mandate, because if I can get a mandate, then I can get the council to agree with me a little bit and make these things happen. And I appreciate everything, and I hope I get your support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Right?
First, I'd like to thank the chamber for holding this forum. Personally, I like the format. Each individual answering the same questions in a rotating order, to me, seems like a pretty fair and responsible way to hold a forum. I'd also like to thank the rest of the candidates that took time to come here today and speak. As we all know, there is one person that is missing that should have been here. And I think it's important that we were given the time to make our statements and let people know where we stand on these issues. We need to begin the process of changing the perception of our city. We have become Maryland's forgotten city because we have allowed it to happen, because we have not been controlling the narrative. We have allowed other people to control what is being said about our city. We need to establish a vision of where we want to be 5-10 years from now and work to execute to be there. This is an area that needs the cooperation between the city and the county, the legislators from Western Maryland, to work together for the betterment of all. It's time for a change. If we continue to do the same things that we've been doing for the last 8 years, we will continue to get the same results. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. David?
Yeah, I would also like to thank the Chamber for holding this forum. I'd like to thank WFWM for allowing us to have it here, Allegany College for filming it and Facebook Living it. And I want to end with this, that this is about the people of Cumberland, that everything that we're doing is about the people of Cumberland. And you've been put on the back burner for far too long. And so it's time for us to put people first. Politics aside, it's about people, it's about you, it's about us having a thriving, growing city where we're no longer forgotten. No, they forgot about the people. We put the people down. We're always spoken on as we're poor, as we're this or that. No, we're going to change this narrative, like it's being said, and we're going to thrive. We're going to rise together. We're going to encourage each other. We're going to unite, and we're going to teach what it looks like for a city to recover from what looked like detrimental bankruptcy to be thriving, active, and just full of life, where we have across the board things for our children, things for our young kids growing up, and things for our elderly people, that there's something to do, that we are the ones, when we come together, and our influence as businesses, as residents, as community leaders, when we all come together, we will be the driving influence. Nothing else will be. And so I'll end with this. I'm taking a stand for Cumberland, and I believe that you're going to stand with me, because we are better together. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Lawrence?
Lawrence Becker, just let everybody know that I'm running for mayor because I feel like that the lack of leadership that we have right now, and retiring from a city after 24 years, I think I have more than the qualifications to take over the job. I have a strong leadership background. I was 24 years in the Navy. I'm a retiree, so I can make the decisions. I'm not afraid to make the tough decisions, whether you like them or not. But I think I would be good for the city. I grew up in this city, graduated here from LaSalle, and I want to make this city get back the way it was when I was a young fellow growing up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Robin?
Wow, when I came into this meeting, I've never run for any political office, and I would have never run for mayor had Councilman Fraser, who I have the utmost respect for, would have run. But he didn't want to run because he didn't want to lose his seat, etc. And when I saw George was running in the beginning, the early candidate out of the gate, I thought, well, okay, he's a progressive. A lot of people like George. He's a businessman. But, that's good enough. I don't need to bother to run. I ain't go forward it. And then everybody else jumped in. Well, I was the last one to declare at the last minute at 3 o'clock on the 27th. I am so impressed with all these fellas. We got 3 veterans sitting here. I don't know if the other 2 gentlemen are veterans. My grandfather retired from the railroad. My brother's getting ready to retire from out there at Amtrak. Again, Lawrence, has been a policeman and involved with the government. And nobody here is bullshitting. Everybody here is very serious candidates. And I do agree with George that the money is increasing the tax base. We got to get in the retirement people. And I say let's get in the opiate recovery house business. I'd like to open a bunch of opiate recovery houses with a minimum wage of $15 an hour here and market it to, let's say, the IBMs, the railroads, the companies with the money. Let's get their suffering, addicts and alcoholics in here to our recovery houses, because I've been through recovery houses like that. We currently finally opened up one house in this county, Allegany House, which is closed for years. Their curriculum is awful. I'd like to have a curriculum from opiates to home ownership and use our rivers and canals and teach these people to hunt and teach them how to be self-sufficient, teach them budgeting, teach them how to be a businessman. And believe me, I've been, again, an entrepreneur since 1980. I can spell entrepreneur, E-N-T-R-E-P-R-E-N-E-U-R. Okay, but George is a little older than me, and David's a smart guy in the room. And I tell you what, I hope whoever is the survivor out of us can beat Mr. Grimm. And better yet, be nice if 2 of us are running against each other in Grimm and even the final 2. But again, that's up to you voters. And without 2 good council members, you're never going to get anything done.
Thank you, Robin. That concludes our forum. I would like to thank John Bone and his students from Allegheny College of Maryland, Chuck Dickin from WFWM at Frostburg State University, and Jeremy Irons, Legislative Committee Chair of the Chamber of Commerce. They are all a pleasure to work with and excellent community partners. Thank you. Finally, I'd like to thank our candidates for their participation and wish them all the best of luck. Early voting will be open from June 14th to June 21st. The primary election will be held on Tuesday, June 26th. The Allegheny County Chamber of Commerce encourages everyone to vote and to make informed decisions on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you.